The lesson that we're doing today is clay. I'm going to show you just a few of the many things that um, we can do. You'll see the lesson plans are on Blackboard for these things and for other things. And the clay I'm going to be first demonstrating with is very sticky, as it was in my basement and it stayed moist. I had it well wrapped. Well, there you go. Normally, without the pandemic, we would be doing this in the studio. We would be using real clay. We would dry it. We would fire it, and then we would glaze it and fire it again, and you would have permanent objects. For today, after I show you how to use clay a little bit, I'm going to move into something I've never done before, which is we're going to use model magic and see how that works for us, because I couldn't send you enough clay to do all the things, and it wouldn't have been easy. So the first thing, very basic, when kids need to learn about clay, you want to make sure you know where clay comes from and what kind of material it is. It is a mud, a special kind of a mud from riverbeds or from lake bottoms or certain areas. And I always tell the kids it's really super agreeable. It'll try to do anything you push it around to do, but it does have its limits. So you have to make sure that you handle it right and construct it right for it not to fall apart. So to make a pinch pot, you make a ball, and very often I'll let kids have 1 week of just exploring and experimenting. And they'll make snakes and they'll make balls and they'll smash it down. And I just tell them, look, you're not going to fall in love with anything that you do today. You're just going to explore and see what clay is like. And then the next week is when we start to make something. So for a pinch pot, you put your thumb of your dominant hand in, and normally I do not wear gloves. It's only because this is so sticky. And it's just a matter of taking your fingers and making a paddle while your thumb is in there and pressing and turning and pressing and turning and pressing and turning. And you just keep doing this. And as you do this, the mouth of the form gets wider, the walls get thinner, and you start to actually make a little cute pot. Kindergarten kids can do this. I think even younger kids can do this, at least with clay. I don't know about the model magic. We'll see how hard or easy that is. So then obviously I don't want to decorate it because it's so smushy, but you can use an old pencil. A pencil can kind of make some interesting marks, edges. You could poke holes into it for a votive candle holder. I'll show you one of those in a minute after I'm done with all my sticky demonstrating. And I have some other tools here. Just a plain old skewer can be a good tool. You can use any kind of a kitchen tool works fine. These are actual real honest to goodness clay tools. These are for removing. They're expensive, so you probably aren't going to use them. And this I would not give very many little kids, but it can really draw beautiful, gorgeous lines. This is for if you wanted to like remove a little bit to give it some texture or something like that, which you can do. When you poke holes into it, let's see if I can take one of these up just to show you. Here's a pinch pot that's dry. That was just a sample to show that you could poke a hole into it. But poking a hole into it will be really great for a votive candle holder. Here's one that's painted. This is not glazed. You can make little stars or other shapes, and those are then reflected around when you stick a tiny candle in there. So that's like a functional thing that you can do if you want, or just make a plain old pinch pot. If you ever teach seniors, seniors can do this too, like really old people. Before my mom died, the Christmas before she died, literally 2 months before she died, she was staying with me for a bit, and she made a pinch pot for everybody in our family, and I fired them. And that was their Christmas present that year. Okay, so that's the pinch pot. The next thing is the coil pot, and a coil pot can start out with just like a little pancake. Now I hope this isn't going to stick on here because it is so sticky wet. Let me grab it a little. So you could start out, since we're making mini ones, I'm going to make a little tiny disc like that. Now, when you're using real clay, clay shrinks. It shrinks when it dries, and it shrinks when you fire it by a little bit. So you have to account for that and do something with something called slip. Now, this is so squishy. It's not going to really need it at all because this is going to bond with whatever comes down on top of it. But usually you can't just like place a coil. As a coil you build up. To go out, you just keep going further out. To go in, if you want sort of a shape that's going to go in, weave in and out, you do that. But I teach the little kids, especially like, first grade, second grade, if they're going to be using a coil, they have to make Velcro, which we just do with a stick. And then you make Velcro on the snaky part that you're going to start building up. And then you usually take just a little bit of water. We are taking no water today because this is so sticky. And then you just keep making snakes. Now, kids are experts at making snakes. They love making long things. And you will not give them clay this wet. Usually my clay is too dry, so I thought I'd have to wet it, and it's really easy to do that with, but to dry it, there's a problem. So let's pretend that I've just Velcroed the edges of this, and I can kind of build it up and keep building it up and keep building it up. And so you just snake it around. When you get it sort of the way you like it, if you want it smooth inside, you have to smooth it, either with your finger or with a tool. A rounded tool like this works really well to kind of do the inside with. Also the outside, if you don't want the coils to show, you can smooth that. A lot of Indian pottery is made this way. And so, you don't see evidence of the coil. However, the evidence of the coil can also be very beautiful. So a coil pot, here's just the beginning of one. I was showing the students last semester how to kind of make a decorative thing, because you can kind of go on that and just use that on purpose, or you can smooth it. This has been started to be smoothed on the inside. The thing about clay that's unfired, which is this clay, is I could stick this in water and it would totally go back into clay. Once you fire it, there's no backseas with it. That's the end of it. So just know that never throw unfired clay away, because you can always repurpose it. So this thing here that I did, if I just stick it in water, it'll be all mushy clay by tomorrow. All right, the very last thing I'm going to ask 130 to do is a pulled animal. Yours won't be big. I just am going to do this because I think it'll demonstrate, and I'm really sorry that I've got such sticky clay here. But basically what you want to make is something, you're going to just pinch it. Something that would be like a star form. So you just pinch little legs out, just pull them. I call this a pulled animal, but it could also be a person. And you do not want, if you can help it, to have the students, I'm going to risk my life and take my gloves off. I may have to wash my hands somehow here. If you add, like, if you just take the body parts, you have a head, you have an arm, a leg, and you're going to try to put them all together. What usually happens with that is they fall apart because of the shrinkage. So I have found that a pulled animal will just be much less disappointing for kids. Okay, so the clay is starting to get a little more agreeable for me. So I make kind of a star shape. And then what I do is I pull the legs down. I make basically legs. Let's see if this creature will stand or collapse because it really still is pretty wet. But I just want you to get the idea. And then you can put a tail on there. You don't have to. And you can kind of go any direction you want. You know, it could be a dinosaur, it could be a monster. I'm sure a few of you are going to make your own crazy monsters. And remember, because it's sculpture, it needs to, you look nice from all the sides. So you'll turn it around as you work. I don't dare make the legs anyway. This sort of looks like a Scotty dog. Let's give it some ears. Because it's so low to the ground. Just so you just pinch out what you need. Just grab what you need, move it around, pinch it around. The clay will do its best to give you its the form you want. And then, you can add textures. One thing you can do is you can cut a mouth open, maybe something like that. Okay, somebody just made a big noise. Anyway, I hope that is showing you a little bit about the possibilities of real clay. Real clay. Here's an example of one that, a fantasy animal that is this is unfired. So it's not even bisqued. Here's one, and you can see it's kind of got the color of a clay flower pot, because this has been bisqued, meaning it has been fired once, low fire, and now it's ready for its glaze. This is also bisqued. So it's been in the kiln, we dried it, we put it in the kiln, we took it out of the kiln, we cooled it down, and now it's ready for a glaze. I don't have any glaze samples here because everybody always takes them home. But I do have an example of a painted dinosaur here, a little tiny thing. And I have an example of I'm gonna get raw clay all over it, a slab, which is like a tile. And you could do tiles for your bathroom or kitchen, whatever. And so now I'm going to segue really fast into 131 and do a portrait bust. I am asking you in Model Magic to do a portrait bust or a puppet head or both, depending on how much Model Magic you have and what you're doing. A portrait bust is a great project because you can do someone you admire, like as a gift. You can do a self-portrait. You can do, if you're studying, I don't know, Black History Month or something, you could do famous people, famous history people, whatever, famous women, famous men. Okay. And it's really, of course, this is going to be a little hard again, but you make sort of this weird kind of shape that is then going to turn into a head. Let me just kind of see if I can get it to hold a neck shape enough. Hold on. Okay, can you see the person that's trying to come out of there? Maybe a little, can you see it just a bit, I hope?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the method for this, at least the one I teach, is you make sort of a skeleton eyeball-y beginning here, depending. And, the clay here obviously is not going to be agreeable with me, but if you can sort of see, you want to see a bit of a chin at some point, and you want to see the nose sticking out. You're going to put hair on it at some point. Again, if you're adding hair from, let's say from under normal circumstances, using real clay, you have to do the scoring And then you can kind of start putting details on, you know, the mouths. You could actually apply stuff too, but nostrils are very important. But I mean, I think you can see the basic process, and kids really enjoy doing this. If you're doing a big head, um, big portrait bust, you may have to carve out the inside a little because a thick piece of clay might explode. If there are air bubbles inside the clay, when you fire it, it will explode and then it might break things around it. So for something that's big, this shape wouldn't really matter, but for like a large portrait bust, it might. Now, puppet heads I don't normally make out of real clay. So I'm just going to show you that with Model Magic. So I'm going to put the real clay away. And I do have really almost what would be boring step-by-step instructions in your lesson plan. Let's see if I can get enough water here to wash my hands without having to leave the area. And of course, there's red clay, there's gray clay, white clay, porcelain, different kinds of clay. This is sort of a student grade red clay, and it's sort of basic. I usually prefer white or gray because I think the possibilities are more. But for some reason, schools tend to use the red more. I know even our college tends to use it more. All right. So let me clear the deck here a little from real clay, and let's take our lives into our hands and try to do some model magic now. Okay, so you have 4 packets of model magic, and this is because it's air dry. I hope you didn't open them yet because we really do have to sort of make sure that they're going to be moist. This is sort of a space age material that Crayola has patented, and I do not know whether any other company has anything even similar. So I'll do the puppet head first. I'm just going to save a little white in case I need it. And I'm going to try to just do it with 4. I actually have 8 here because I have 2 sets. And one of the ways you can use markers to color this. You can also paint it. I'm going to show you the marker technique, but I'm going to see if I can't get a skin tone. Maybe I'll even save a little bit more. A skin tone by putting a little of this in there and combining it. So I'm just going to marbleize it and see what happens. Hopefully it will tint. It should. It should if I live right. So obviously you've got red, yellow, blue. You can make an orange monster. This is going to be obviously something embarrassed because it's getting darker than I thought it would. So I'm going to start with a puppet face. Now the puppet face is for 131, and I'm on 131 at the moment, and then I'm going to move to 130. So bear with me. Puppets are lots of fun for kids to do. I would like you to, if you do this, to really spend some time. You might even want to make a sketch of it, but the idea of it would be you're going to probably put it on, on a dowel, and then you can always make costumes for your puppets. But the puppet face is very similar to doing the portrait bust. So you saw how much red I used there, and you can see where we're at here. in terms of how dark it got. So I wasn't patient enough. I should have waited. I should have definitely waited and been a little more frugal with my red, but I wasn't. So what'll I make? I'm not even sure what I'm going to make here, but I just want to kind of give you a sense of what you can, some of the possibilities. So if I wanted to make lips, let's say, I could do, and Model Magic will stick to itself, but you got to press it down a little bit. It's very spongy, and it is not strong. Don't expect you're going to have something super strong that's going to last a million, trillion, billion years, because it won't. Here, let's make an eyeball over here. I'm expecting you're going to do a much better job than this. This is a quick demo, and you're going to be thoughtful and give me something really incredibly fabulous. So there's the whites of the eyes. Let me put this back in here. And this will give it. You could wait and let it dry and then use a Sharpie on here, but not while it's wet. You can't use a Sharpie while it's wet. But I am going to show you tinting with markers. Very often what I would buy for my school would be I'd buy a huge bucket of all white, only white, none of this colored stuff. And then the kids would be able to make their own colors. Because the thing about this is, it's a little pro forma in that here's what you have. And let's give this person, I don't know if I've got a male or a female here, but it doesn't matter really, I guess. Some major eyebrows there. And here. Expression, whatever. And you can go into it. Let me borrow my clay tool and, dig into it and give it some fun sort of details. I think it's time for some hair. You could do a baseball cap. You could do whatever. Hair can kind of go lots of ways. So it could be sort of spiky hair or crazy hair, or might want to put ears on. So this is only the beginning. I would do the whole thing. I would also do the back. The back, there'd be ears, because it needs to be three-dimensional. To let this dry, if you do like a puppet head, you could just stick it in a glass so that you don't get this big, terrible flat head back here. Okay, so one option to do is a puppet head. I mean, if you're worried about your grade, do both of them because that'll give you some extra credit. Now what I'm going to do is go into, I'm going to take it apart. Here we go. And we're going to get some kind of weird color there, probably brown. By the time you mix all colors together, you get brown. And then I thought I'd make a portrait bust a little here. I want to put some white in there. All right, so my display pens, here they are. Okay. And then I promise I'll get to the 130. I promise. Wait, that was yellow. You should have enough, and use it all. Use it all when you do this. Don't leave any around because it really does need to be used. So I just added a little more white just to change the color slightly. But again, with this, if you want to make your own color, you can. I'll show you that soon. So this still is very little too pink. I actually overdid the pink. And I'm going to make mine smaller than what you would. If you're going to do the portrait bust, you would obviously use every little piece that you possibly could. But it's the same thing I just showed you with the clay, where you're making kind of this knobby shape, like a bedpost or something. And then you are forming it into a neck, a chin, so that from the side, you're going to see from the side, there's going to be a chin. There's going to be sort of eye cavities. Whoa. And you might have to let this just harden just a tad, not too much, but this is not the easiest material to use to get it to form how you want. This particular person has a very thick neck and a very flat head. All right. Then it's the same as I showed you on the puppet, but the difference is going to be, because it's sitting up, you can do some odd things. Oh, that's pretty. Let's give this person some weird hair. But I want it to look good from all the sides. So you're going to send me a front view, a back view, a side view. And you could actually do a real person if you want. Now, if you wanted to do something that is kind of a custom color, I would have the kids. You got to use washable markers, which you have. The Crayola marker works really well. If you got an orange marker, you've lucked out, because orange, all you do is you just put a little bit of the orange marker in there, and you knead it. Now you'll get it on your hands a little bit, but if you can't get a little marker on your hands, I guess you shouldn't go into teaching art. But I just want to show you how to get the color, and it just gives you a much more realistic color. And you can change the color of the white and the yellow and all of them with just a little bit of markers. So you may want to try the markers and make enough in different sections so that you would have something that would look a little more skin-like. So let me do this for you just so you could see. And then I'm going to go into the construction for 130. This is a much more real looking color for somebody's head. Of course, the neck is a different color, but I would do it on the neck as well. I just wanted you to see how you can make a more subtle color using this technique. All right. Here. Let me see. Okay. So do you all think that the people in 131, do you think you can do this based on this amount of demo? Not 130, 131. So I'm talking to Rachel, I'm talking to Jen, I'm talking to Grace. Yes or no? Do you need me to go finish it for you?
No.
Okay, you got the idea?
Yeah.
If this happens, by the way, Model Magic is wonderful. You can kind of cut it off, do a little surgery, because I just blotted out the nose. I've given this person lips, but I gave it very bad nose. The philtrum is kind of weird too here. So hold on. Boom, boom. You can draw in a face, but it's better to kind of try to put some details instead. The one thing you can do with Model Magic that I forgot to tell you, which I want you to know. Here, let's make a color here. I'm taking the yellow, I'm adding all my leftover cruddy stuff. Looks like it's maybe it will get brown. You can cut it and fringe it. It's one real plus of this material is it's clean. Teachers love clean things. They don't like mess. So compared to like real clay, this is So you can just cut it, fringe it like that. You know, you could kind of give her kind of some weird hairstyle. Okay, you get the idea? Yeah, I hope you get the idea. Yes, say yes. Say that you got the idea. Okay, any questions about 131? You're making a portrait bust and or a puppet head. If you do the puppet head, I'd really like it on a pencil, maybe an outfit, not out of clay, but you know, just out of paper or something, just to give it context. I think the portrait bust is harder to do, but you should have enough to probably do both if you want. Anybody have a question on 131?
Nope.
Okay, so now I'm going to smush this in a ball. We're gonna make some new thing here. All right, so I'm gonna make a pinch pot. And I guess I'll make it, I'll marbleize it a little bit. Why not?
Professor, 130 has to do a pinch pot?
Hello.
130 is doing a pinch pot, and you're an animal, you're doing three things. But it's gonna be, they're small and easy.
So a pinch pot, an animal, and what's the third one?
Let's see, a pinch pot, an animal, and a coil. I'm gonna do it right now. So you're gonna pull an animal, like I showed you. You're gonna do a little pinch pot, and you're going to do some kind of little coil thing. But your thing is gonna be very small. You know, let me do a pinch pot here, and I'll show you. Yeah. So you have three things. You have three things due. 131 has one thing to do, but it's a lot harder. So that's why I'm only making it one, or possibly two if you want to do two. All right, so I'm going to use this ball. Yours will probably be smaller because I've now combined like a whole lot of clay here. It'll be a little, if you do, you know, you've got to do enough for three things, but you can make your animals small. So your pinch pot is you make a ball, you press and turn. However long you want. Obviously, don't make a thing for a candle because this probably would be flammable. But you could have some fun in terms of, you know, how you would decorate it. You can, you know, use the back of a marker like that. You can draw on it or make lines or dots, or you can cut it. You know, if you want to do something odd, have some fun with it. Okay, so a pinch pot, that'll literally take you 10 minutes or less to do. That's the first thing. The second thing, well, I'll do the coil next and I'll do the pulled animal last, just in case you have questions about that. All right, so for the coil, I don't think we're going to need to score. I think Model Magic, as long as it's wet enough, will hold together. And you're going to make a little bit of a base. You'll see how much cleaner this is than real clay, especially soggy real clay. And because you're not going to use it in a dishwasher or anything, you don't have to worry about the inside being smooth. If you are going to drink out of something that you actually make out of real clay, you don't want these little nooks and crannies because food and all kinds of little germy, icky things get inside there and it's not sanitary. So now if you wanted to make something more like a plate, you would just keep going out, 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 out like that. If you want to make something that's going to go in, you will do this. So now I've gone out a little bit in this little clay thing I'm doing. Now I'm going to go in. So you just make a snake like this. It's really called a coil, but kids like to think of it as a snake. And then when you want to go in, you just start furthering going in, sort of like that. With this, it's going to be very hard for you to totally lose the edge of the coil. I wouldn't even try it. So maybe have some fun with the textures, because there's some really pretty things that you do that way. So a coil pot is the second thing that you're going to do. The very last thing is your animal. And I guess I'll just combine this. I prefer an animal to a person. A person is very hard to do because you have to give them really fat legs. And while we could do it more readily with regular clay, I would just guess for our purposes, make yourself some kind of an animal or an animal family. I'm expecting your animals will be teeny tiny. Your animals will be no bigger than this. And here, let me give you a ruler so you know what we're talking about here. So no longer than 4 inches, most likely, because that's how this dinosaur is that. So you can get some really good marbleizing with this. Maybe I'll just use that and just show you this with a marbleized creature. So you make a potato shape. And now I'm going to pull 5 appendages out, like a star. Just, you got to kind of grab it and take it from wherever it might be. Sometimes you have to steal from one of the other appendages to make it appropriate. This, whatever this is going to have a long neck, because I can see I have much more hair for the head. Okay, so there's the beginning of my animal. Now I'm going to pull over, and down, and down. And I think I'll give him a little tail, a little tiny tail. And let's do like a long neck. It could be an alpaca, but the legs need to be sort of chubby, and don't try to do anything too skinny. And it doesn't have to look too real. We're not going for reality today. We're going for understanding how to teach this to kids. So now you can pull up scales. You know, it pulls. You can also, as I was telling you before, cut. So let's cut. Let's cut. We could do that. We can, we can come over here and let's give this guy a big long tongue. Why not? You could give him teeth. Here, he'll be slobbering. Let's put him over to the side. And then you can give him, how about some red eyeballs maybe, or something. You know, have some fun with it. You're losing out on the fact that you're not going to be able to put it in the dishwasher. So have some fun with that. That doesn't even look like a tongue to me. Well, maybe that'll look like a tongue. How's that? Is that better? And then, you know, maybe as it dries a little, you can push the legs to get a little more height. But gravity, the gravity will kind of work. You could give them some toenails. Yeah, this is sort of the demented pole animal. But have a little fun. And then if you have any left over, you could make babies. You know, I really do want you to use every single little piece of model magic that you have. All right, because it will not last. It's hard to keep it moist, and it's not cheap. It's kind of expensive, so a lot of teachers will not use it for that reason. Clay is a lot cheaper. This is cleaner though. So does anybody have any questions about that? I'm wanting a pinch pot, a coil of some sort pot, and
None for me.
Anybody else? And an animal, real, imaginary, or whatever. And then this will dry, and you'll see it's kind of spongy and kind of weird. it is fragile, so you can't abuse it. Don't expect that it's going to last more than what? Well, if you take care of it, I guess it would, but it's not clay. It's it's not clay. So that's what I have as a demo today. If anybody has anything more, I will address that. Otherwise, I'm going to turn the Zoom off and talk about homework.